On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's John Downs and welcome to another episode of On the Track. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, which is what this show is mostly about, but I'm also a musician and a singer, and I've got a new record out, and this song isn't on it.
Racist, of course I'm racist. I'm prejudiced against the species who have xenophobia. Racist, I'm human racist. I'm prejudiced against the racism of the planet of my birth. I'm hating into the rabbit meat as they try to give consumers cheap and nasty things that they can buy are making Mother Nature cry. Racist, of course I'm racist. I'm prejudiced against the creatures who have despoiled the earth. Racist, I'm human racist. I'm prejudiced against the racism of the planet of my birth. A doctrine of unlimited growth is far more of a sin than sloth. The economy as a cattle prod, the worshipping the bloody God. Racist, of course I'm racist. I'm prejudiced against the bitches who have this far world. Racist, I'm human racist. I'm prejudiced against the racism of the planet of my birth. And cut down all the trees today. Just seems to me to be insane. And maybe a stupid shotgun view, 'cause they don't care what's gonna happen to you.
So ladies and gentlemen, I was quite proud of that song, but Computer Boy heard it and he likes the song as well, but he thought that there is every possibility that somebody would become offended by it. And worse, that the YouTube algorithms will pick up on the word racist and accuse me of somehow being a member of the Ku Klux Klan or something. Well, I can't do anything about the algorithms, but if anybody's offended by this, well, that's what I call both enigmatic and didactic.
I really like the old credits.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, my name's John Downs and welcome to another episode of On the Track. For those of you who don't know, and I expect most of you do, I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology. Oh, I think I said all this beforehand, but I think I should probably say it again. And each Saturday I come to you bringing you a potpourri? Oi, Computer Boy, potpourri, how do I pronounce it?
I have no idea what you're trying to say.
Potpourri. How do I say it properly?
Potpourri is a collection of dried flowers.
And that's what you can probably think about my memories of my life. The dried remnants of a summer flower. And here I am, bringing these dried remnants to you every Saturday afternoon at 3, aided and abetted by a collection of people and creatures and things and I bring you a half hour or so of hard science, weird shit and surreality. On with the show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to the subject of Wally the Walrus, our old friend, the peripatetic pinniped, that we haven't talked about for a while, because he left England and went back to Irish waters, and then for 22 whole days he disappeared, and a lot of people, including, I'm afraid, us, had begun to fear the worst. Because we'd all become very fond of Wally, and although many people were looking at it as a horrible thing, a tragedy, if you will, that an animal from the far north, from the Arctic waters, would turn up off the British coast, I was actually thinking it was really rather cool and hoping that this would see the beginning of a migration south, meaning that we'd end up having lots of walruses, walruses, in British waters, because I think they're fantastic creatures and British waters would be a lot more fun with more of them. But then, as I said, he disappeared for 22 whole days, and we were beginning to fear the worst. But never fear, we have good news for you. Bob Skinner wrote to me the other day and kept me up to date, because apparently he has now been seen, I mean, this is Wally the Walrus, not Bob Skinner, has now been seen off the coast of Iceland, which would imply that he's on his way home after his summer vacation. Bob Skinner is actually a sort of unsung hero of this saga as far as the CFZ are concerned, because nearly all the time that I've brought you news stories about where Wally the Walrus had turned up next, it's been Bob who has sent them to us. He's an old friend of the CFZ, and we are very grateful to him. We're also grateful to him for this next story about another peripatetic pinniped, a ringed seal which has turned up in Scotland. This is another creature from the Arctic and subarctic which has turned up far too far south. The ringed seal, Pusa hispida, is an earless seal, rarely greater than 1.5 meters in length, and with a distinctive patterning of dark spots surrounded by light grey rings, hence its common name. It is the most abundant and wide-ranging ice seal in the northern hemisphere, ranging throughout the Arctic Ocean into the Bering Sea and Okhotsk Sea, as far south as the northern coast of Japan and the Pacific, and throughout the North Atlantic coasts of Greenland and Scandinavia, as far south as Newfoundland. And particularly interesting as far as I'm concerned, this species also has 2 freshwater subspecies in northern Europe, something which is practically unknown amongst modern-day pinnipeds. In fact, apart from the 2 freshwater subspecies, there is only the Baikal seal, and all other seals are found in the sea. Ringed seals are one of the primary prey of polar bears and killer whales, and have long been a component of the diet of indigenous people of the Arctic. Recently, however, the biggest threat to ringed seals has been the changing temperature in the Arctic and the detrimental changes to sea ice that follow. With declines in snowpack and sea ice due to warming ocean and atmospheric temperatures, survival has become tougher for this species in the Arctic and subarctic regions. Yet ringed seals are also potentially projected to thrive due to warming, considering that the climatic changes are likely to bring the early extinction of their predators. The Scottish SPCA is caring for this latest vagrant, a male which was found looking lethargic and with abrasions on its back at Cove Bay Harbour, Aberdeen. The British Divers Marine Life Rescue alerted Scotland's animal welfare charity after spotting the creature on August the 27th. Ringed seals are smaller than common seals, and the mammal was initially mistaken for a common seal pup, but was correctly identified when it arrived at the Scottish SPCA's National Wildlife Rescue Centre. It's thought that the seal's mother may have come south searching for food and reached the north of Scotland. The charity expects to care for the seal into October and maybe November, and will then go as far north as possible for release so it can find its way home. It seems, by the way, that there's only been around 12 to 30 sightings of ringed seals in the UK over the last 100 years. So Hispy, as he has been rather cutely named, is a lucky and rare visitor indeed. So Carl, last time we saw this little lizard, it was in a cardboard box that it had been sent to me from somewhere, I believe in Italy, but I can't remember. So what's happened now? It's in a magnificent case.
Yeah, we just thought it deserved a nice case, so I asked my father if he would do it for you, which he said he would, which was nice of him. It's a red bearded flying dragon. Yeah, my father just did the case. It was already dried out, the lizard was, so we just literally cased it, that's all. Hello, Archie.
Archie wants to come up and make friends with the lizard.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a bit guilty about this because at the time I thought this was just an old taxidermy specimen. But I found afterwards that the same bloke is selling quite a few different species of flying dragon. Well, however unrealistic it may be, I would like to think that they're all dead ones that he finds in the forest because they live long and productive lives, then drop down dead and it should be recycled as eBay taxidermy. But I'm afraid I think it's probably unlikely. However, none of the species in this group are endangered, so it's not actually doing anything particularly harmful for the species. But as somebody who won't even eat meat because I don't like killing things, the idea that I bought something on eBay which was killed to order so I could have it in a glass case on my wall, made very kindly by Carl's dad, is a bit unsettling. Carl's dad is a really useful person to have around. He's been a taxidermist for years and is also a very accomplished field naturalist. So not only is he the CFZ house taxidermist, but he's the person that we run to ask all sorts of questions, because during our day-to-day activities some question comes up we don't know the answer to. It's almost certain that I say to Carl, go and ask your dad, because he's going to know the answer, and he invariably does. He is an incredibly useful person, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank him very much for all he has done for us, and in particular this little lizard. But the Marshall family have put so much effort into this. The label at the top has been hand-lettered in Victorian-style script by Carl's aunt, and the CFZ is very, very lucky to have got the whole Marshall family on board doing all sorts of exciting things. Remember, it was only a year or so ago we had Carl's mum with a badly stuffed albatross, which was a very, very strange experience. That was more than a year ago. I think Karina was still alive, so it was about 2.5 years ago. But it was a very weird experience, Carl using his mother as scale to show how big the badly taxidermied wandering albatross was.
So when this turned up, this the red bearded flying dragon. It was so beautiful, and it was in this horrible little plastic sleeve that they transport them about in, and it really didn't do justice to it whatsoever. And the idea that people just buy them and put it on the shelf and just leave it there and never see it again, I think is pretty disgraceful. So we thought it'd be a nice idea to honour its remains and make a beautiful case for it, and just honour it as a scientific specimen for future times.
I agree totally with what Carl said, and I find the fact that that doing something like this, we're mixing proper science with art and a weird sort of esoteric overlay, actually produces something which is in a very real sense magical. And that is one of the touchstones, one of the cornerstones of what the Centre for Fortean Zoology is all about. Now, the main reason I got this lizard was because many people have suggested that the flying dragon legends from Asia and the giant flying snake of Namibia could be a creature similar to the flying lizards. They would, of course, be considerably larger, but at this point it seems appropriate to just butt in and say that as well as flying lizards, which are actually gliding lizards, there are also flying snakes and flying geckos and flying frogs, all of which glide to a greater or lesser degree, and all of which have been used as strange explanations rather, for various cryptids over the years. I actually don't think that they are, but I think the fact that so many people think they are is absolutely fascinating. Watching Mr. Marshall putting this case together so intricately really underlines that what we are doing here is not just a piece of scientific preservation, it is art. And at the risk of attracting a lot of negative vibes from various people across the internet, I believe that when you mix art and science, you get magic. I think that's what magic is. I think magic is a craft. It's not a religion, it's not a cult, it's not hocus pocus. It's very real, but it's a craft, a mixture between art and science. And I haven't seen my old friend Tony Shields in many years. In fact, to be quite honest, I don't even know if he's still alive. I hope so. And if anybody who knows him is watching this, please ask him to get in touch. But I am sure Tony would be watching this intricate mixture of art and science with great interest, and would probably be able to advise on how this could be turned into an incantation to raise dragons somewhere in the world. Well, I have no intention of raising dragons, but it amuses me to know that, at least according to some people's worldview, it can be done. Unfortunately, quite a lot of the exhibits in what was the CFZ Museum, and which is at the moment an untidy pile of rubble at the top of the garden, have not gone through the years very well, partly because the house is old and damp, and partly because between 2018 and 2020 my entire business, my entire life focus was to look after Karina in the last months of her life. That was also mixed with the fact that Mother who had been living with us for quite a few years, suddenly developed vascular dementia, and she was quite a handful as well. And when one is a decent human being, family comes first. But dear sweet John Marshall and his wonderful son Carl are going through various objects in the CFZ Museum, repairing them, and in some cases making them better than they were before. And we're going to be showing you this stuff on and off as it happens in On the Track. And it's not just things in the CFZ Museum. And by the way, although the museum building is in a state of disrepair, the best of the museum exhibits have been brought down to what used to be my office, because as you know now, I operate nearly 100% of the time from here in the sitting room. So we do still have a museum, but the CFZ grounds are also being refurbished magically by Carl and his friend Geordie. Well, you've all heard of Andrew Geordie Jackson, because he has been doing the Forest of Dean investigations with Carl, and he also went on expeditions to Borneo and Belize with Carl, and he worked at the butterfly farm in Stratford with Carl. So that probably explains to you all why he's down here with Carl, being kind enough to dedicate his expertise to fixing the CFZ garden up, because it looked really crappy for it. When we first moved here it was okay, but it got worse and worse and worse slowly. And as my physical condition and Karina's physical condition, and let's face it, Graham's not getting any younger, so really it became unwieldy and too much for us to do. But now we have this wonderful man from Newcastle, who is, I think, going to have a song written for him as soon as I've finished writing all the other silly songs I've got to do in this show. But I think I'm going to get Wayne Lovejuice to write a song for him. But here he is explaining what he has been doing for the CFZ grounds.
Hi there, in John Down's garden here in North Devon. We've just had a couple of days doing the garden. Just want to show you what we've done so far. Well, we've showed up the hedge there with organic matter. One job that we need to do next time is redo the whole pond area, which we obviously have to empty the top one where the pump is and the leaves as we go down here, and planting marginals around here. As we go down, we want to eventually have ponds on each level of the garden. Again, we've showed up the hedge here with organic matter. And you can see the ponies in the field right next to us, and all countryside around. Down here, carry on. Another job to do is take the rest of the bramble out and making this more natural looking. And you have the log pile here, which you've just made for beetles and other insects. Yeah. As we go along here, essential plant of the hydrangea, and the chickens are just here. There we go. And we come down to the entrance of the garden. There's another area here that we haven't decided what to do yet. You see, it's quite a big area, as well as down here. Bamboo there. And then as we go down the path, these walls will be planted with various trailing herbaceous plants, alpines such as Obretia Allison, saxifrages and sedums. We have some Asplenium, the bird's nest, and Dryopterus there, two ferns. As we come down here, this was all cleared of all the leaves when we first came into the closer area. And as you go up to the entrance to the house, this again was all leaves, a couple of little piles left, and we have taken all the leaves from here, pruned the Weigelia a little bit, but there's a lot more pruning to be done, and we've cleaned the floor, the path coming up to the conservatory, which needs a little bit more pruning back. And this was all covered in weeds, this area. And into the conservatory there. And this is overall look of the garden if you come down here. A nice sitting area, which you can look down in the garden and across the fields. So hopefully it will be enjoyed for many years to come. Signing off, on the track.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who is a regular visit to the studio, wants me to remind you, always remember to ring the notification bell. Otherwise, you won't be told when we've got a new show available. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another show. I want to say a big, big, big thank you to everybody involved. Especially, and this is sort of going backwards from the end, especially Geordie and Carl, who are working so hard to make the place look nice you wouldn't believe. And I also want to say a big thank you to Bob Skinner, who always sends me the latest news of Wally the Walrus, and also sent me the stuff about the ringed seal, not a skinned seal, the ringed seal that has been nicknamed Hespy, which I think is rather cute. And there is also, as always, Louis and Graham and Maxine and Charlotte and Sarah, and really you have no idea what these dear girls do behind the scenes. Charlotte is doing very well at college, and she phones me regularly or calls me on my iPad regularly to tell me how she's getting on, and I can't tell you how excited I am for her. This is really, really good stuff. Well, like I said, end of this episode, and in a week's time I'll be back, because we would do this every 7 days. And every Saturday afternoon I come along looking more and more like Joe Gauchier than usual, and I say it's time for another episode of On the Track, because every Saturday afternoon at 3 I'm here, and if you're there I'll be seeing you.